People think the hardest part about being slapped is the pain. They're wrong. Pain fades. Humiliation doesn't. Especially when 26 people are watching. Especially when your husband says nothing. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 34 years old. For the last 11 years, I've worked as a trauma surgeon in Chicago. Every shift begins the same way. Someone's worst day becomes my responsibility. Broken bones, car crashes, gunshot wounds, heart attacks. I've spent half my life saving people. I just never realized the one person I couldn't save was the man I married. If you had asked me 10 years earlier what love looked like, I would have described Ryan, funny, patient, kind, the kind of man who remembered every birthday, every anniversary, every tiny promise. At least, that's who I thought he was. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It arrived in tiny pieces. One excuse, one lie, one silence at a time. Our 10th anniversary dinner wasn't my idea. It was his. We should celebrate properly this year. He smiled while adjusting his tie. My whole family will be there. I almost said no, not because I hated celebrations, because I knew his family, especially Olivia, Ryan's older sister. She had spent the last decade treating me like I was a guest, in my own marriage. If dinner was late, Emma's fault. If Ryan missed Sunday lunch, Emma's fault. If his mother got upset, Emma's fault. Ryan always kissed my forehead afterward. Ignore her. She's always been difficult. No, she wasn't difficult. She was comfortable. Comfortable because nobody ever told her. No. The restaurant overlooked Lake Michigan. Floor-to-ceiling windows, crystal chandeliers, soft piano music, every table covered with white roses. It should have been romantic. Instead, it felt like walking into a courtroom. 26 guests, parents, aunts, uncles, business partners, family friends, even people I barely recognized. Everyone greeted Ryan. A few smiled politely at me. Olivia didn't. She looked me up and down, then whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "She's wearing white?" I thought this dinner was about family, not another award ceremony. A few people laughed. Ryan pretended he didn't hear it. I pretended it didn't hurt. Dinner began. For almost 30 minutes, everything felt normal. People laughed, stories were shared, wine glasses clinked. Then the waiter placed the food in the center of the table. I hadn't eaten since 6 that morning. An emergency surgery had lasted almost 9 hours, without thinking. I reached for the serving spoon. I placed a small amount of pasta onto my plate before anyone else. The room became quiet. Olivia slowly put down her wine glass. "There she is," she smiled. "The real Emma." I looked up. "I'm sorry?" "The woman who thinks she's more important than everyone else." I blinked. "What are you talking about? My parents haven't served themselves. My uncle hasn't touched his food. But the famous surgeon couldn't wait." Several guests looked uncomfortable. I immediately placed the spoon back. "I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. I've had a long day." That should have ended it. But people who enjoy humiliation rarely stop after one victory. Olivia pushed back her chair. The sound echoed through the room. She walked around the table, slowly, confidently, until she stood beside me. She leaned close enough for only me to hear. "You've always acted like you're better than us." I quietly answered, "I've never believed that." She smiled. "You never had to say it." Then she looked around the room. "You know what? I think it's finally time someone taught you some respect." Before I could react, slap! The sound cracked through the dining room. My head snapped to one side. Someone gasped. A fork hit the floor. Even the pianist outside stopped playing. The entire restaurant turned to look at us. I slowly touched my cheek. It burned, but not nearly as much as what happened next. I looked at Ryan. He stayed in his chair. His eyes met mine for barely a second. Then he quietly said, "Emma, please don't make a scene. Not, are you okay? Not," Olivia, apologize. Not even, "Don't touch my wife. Just don't make a scene." And in that exact moment, I realized something. My marriage hadn't ended because of one slap. It had ended because my husband had chosen silence. 1,000 times before tonight, Olivia folded her arms proudly. "Maybe now, you'll remember your place." No one defended me, not his father, not his mother, not one relative. I looked around the room, 26 faces, every single one waiting to see if I would cry. They expected tears, they expected anger, they expected humiliation. Instead, I smiled, a calm, peaceful smile. Olivia frowned. "Why are you smiling?" I picked up my handbag, slowly, carefully. Then I removed a thick black folder. Ryan saw it and instantly stood up. His chair crashed onto the floor. His face turned completely white. "No," he whispered. "Emma, not tonight." For the first time all evening, people weren't looking at me. They were looking at Ryan, confused, scared, wondering why a simple folder had terrified him. I gently placed it on the table, then looked directly at Olivia. "You think this dinner was your victory?" I paused. "It isn't. It's mine." She laughed. "What's in the folder?" I held her gaze. "The proof that you and Ryan spent 2 years trying to destroy my life." The smile disappeared from her face. Ryan took a step toward me. "Emma, please." I looked him straight in the eyes. "For 2 years, I begged you to tell the truth. You chose lies. So tonight, I'll tell it for you." I opened the folder. The very first page became visible. At the top, in bold letters, were the words, "Forensic Document Examination Report." Ryan closed his eyes, because he already knew. The first lie was finally about to die. Nobody moved, not even the waiter standing outside the private dining room. Every eye was fixed on the black folder in front of me. Ryan looked like he had forgotten how to breathe. Olivia was still trying to look confident, but I noticed something. Her fingers, they wouldn't stop trembling. She knew the folder wasn't empty. She just didn't know how much I knew. Ryan slowly reached toward the folder. "Emma, let's go home." "We don't have to do this here." I looked at his hand, then gently closed the folder before he could touch it. "For 10 years, I protected your reputation. Tonight, I'm protecting mine." His father finally spoke. "Ryan, what is she talking about?" Ryan forced a weak smile. "It's a misunderstanding." I nodded. "You're right. It started as one. The day I trusted you." I opened the folder again. The first page was a forensic handwriting report. I held it up so everyone could see the title. "Forensic Document Examination Report." His mother frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I hired an independent forensic document examiner." Ryan immediately interrupted. "Emma, stop." I looked directly at him. "No, you had 2 years to tell the truth. You chose silence." I turned to the second page. The examiner compared 32 known samples of my signature with the signature used on legal property documents. I paused. The conclusion was simple. I read the final sentence exactly as it appeared. Mrs. Emma Carter did not sign these documents. Her signature was digitally copied and placed onto the agreement without her knowledge or consent. The room fell silent. His father slowly stood. "What agreement?" I removed another document. The agreement that transferred 40% of the company I built out of my name. Olivia laughed. "Company? What company?" I looked at her. "The medical software company I started before marrying Ryan." Her smile faded. "I invested every bonus, every weekend, every vacation, for 7 years. When the company finally became profitable, I owned 40%. Ryan quickly spoke. "It was only temporary." I ignored him. 3 years ago, the company received an acquisition offer. A very large one. His uncle frowned. How large? I answered quietly. $8 million. Several guests gasped. Ryan's mother stared at her son. You never told us that. He looked away. It wasn't finalized. It wasn't finalized, I repeated, because Ryan secretly signed documents removing me as a voting shareholder. Olivia shook her head. That's impossible. He couldn't do that. I calmly slid another page across the table. He couldn't. Unless someone witnessed the forged signatures. Olivia frowned. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm asking you a question. I held up the final page. Is this your signature? Her face changed instantly. She grabbed the paper, looked down, then looked back at me. I thought, Ryan immediately interrupted. Olivia, she looked at him. You told me Emma had already signed everything. He closed his eyes. She whispered, You said... I was only signing as a family witness. The room exploded. His father slammed both hands onto the table. Ryan, you used your own sister? Ryan raised his voice. I was trying to save the company. No, I answered calmly. You were trying to save control. Olivia slowly sat back down. She looked completely lost. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. For the first time in 10 years, I believed her. She had been cruel. She had humiliated me. But this wasn't her plan. She had been manipulated too. Ryan looked at me with anger. You planned this. I smiled sadly. No, I documented it. There's a difference. Then I reached into the folder one more time. This time, I didn't pull out papers. I pulled out a small silver flash drive. Ryan's face drained of color. No, he whispered. Not the papers. The flash drive. That was what truly terrified him. His father noticed immediately. What's on it? I looked around the table. Every single person was staring at me. I slowly placed the flash drive beside the folder. Then I said the words Ryan had feared for 2 years. This contains one conversation. 23 minutes. Recorded the night Ryan thought I was asleep. Olivia frowned. What conversation? I looked directly at her. The one where Ryan told someone that humiliating me in front of the family would make me desperate enough to sign whatever he put in front of me. Olivia's eyes widened. She turned toward Ryan. You said that? Ryan didn't answer, because for the first time that night, silence wasn't protecting him anymore. It was exposing him. Ryan stared at the flash drive. His lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time in our marriage, he looked exactly the way I had felt for the past 2 years, trapped. His father picked up the flash drive. What is this? Ryan stepped forward. You don't need to hear it. I quietly smiled. That's interesting. I looked at everyone around the table. When I begged Ryan to listen to me, he said I was overreacting. Tonight, he doesn't want anyone else to listen. Ryan reached toward me. Emma, I'm asking you one last time. Don't do this. I met his eyes. No, you lost the right to ask me for mercy. The night you planned my humiliation. My attorney, Michael, opened his laptop. He plugged in the flash drive. The room became completely silent. No one touched their food. No one checked their phones. 26 people. Waiting. The audio started. At first, only soft background music. Then, Ryan's voice. Clear, calm, unmistakable. Ryan, she still doesn't suspect anything. Several relatives immediately looked at him. Ryan lowered his head. Another voice followed. It was Daniel, Ryan's business partner. Daniel, are you sure she'll sign? Ryan, she will. Daniel, what if she refuses? Ryan laughed. Actually laughed. Ryan, she won't. Olivia already knows how to push her buttons. Olivia slowly looked up. What? The recording continued. Daniel, your sister hates Emma. Ryan, exactly. If Olivia embarrasses her in front of everyone, Emma will become emotional. And emotional people stop reading documents. The room froze. I looked at Olivia. She looked as if someone had knocked the air out of her lungs. Ryan whispered, "It isn't what it sounds like." Nobody even looked at him. The recording continued. "Daniel, you're using your own sister." Ryan answered without hesitation. "Ryan, she doesn't need to know. She thinks she's defending the family. She's actually helping me." Olivia covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. She slowly turned toward Ryan. "You used me?" Ryan didn't answer, because the recording already had. Then came the sentence, the one I had listened to over 100 times, the sentence that ended my marriage long before I filed for divorce. Ryan's voice echoed through the speakers. "Emma trusts me more than she trusts herself. That's why she'll never see it coming." I closed my eyes for 1 second. Even after 2 years, those words still hurt. Not because they were cruel, because they were true. I had trusted him completely. His mother started crying. His father looked physically ill. One of Ryan's uncles quietly stood up and walked toward the window. Nobody knew what to say, because there was nothing left to defend. The recording wasn't over. Daniel asked one final question. "Daniel, and if Emma finds out?" There was a short silence. Then Ryan answered, calmly, coldly, like he was discussing tomorrow's weather. "Then she'll have nobody to believe her. My family always takes my side." No one moved. Ryan slowly looked around the room. 26 people, the same people he had counted on. None of them were standing beside him anymore. I reached over and paused the recording. Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable, necessary. Finally, Olivia stood. She walked toward me. For a second, I thought she was angry. Instead, she turned toward everyone else, then toward me. Her voice shook. "Emma, I owe you an apology." She took a deep breath. "I've treated you terribly for years. I believed every lie Ryan told me. I thought I was protecting my brother." She looked at Ryan. "I never realized I was helping him destroy his own wife." She turned back to me. Then, in front of everyone, she lowered her head. "I'm sorry. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was real." Ryan took a step forward. "Olivia." She raised her hand. "No. For once, you're going to listen." She looked him straight in the eyes. "You didn't just betray Emma. You betrayed me too." Before Ryan could answer, Michael quietly slid one final sealed envelope across the table. "This arrived from the courthouse this afternoon." Ryan frowned. "What is that?" Michael replied, "The consequence of believing Emma would never fight back." Ryan opened the envelope. As he read the first page, his hands began to shake. His breathing became uneven. His father noticed. "What is it?" Ryan couldn't speak, so Michael answered for him. 3 hours ago, the judge signed an emergency order." I looked directly at Ryan. "And starting tomorrow morning, you no longer control your company." Ryan's head snapped toward me, his eyes filled with disbelief. "What did you do?" I held his gaze. "I didn't take your company. You signed it away yourself." The room went silent again, because no one understood how that could possibly be true. Ryan read the court order again, then a third time. His hands trembled so badly the papers slipped onto the table. "No, that's impossible." He looked at Michael. "There has to be a mistake." Michael calmly folded his hands. "There isn't." Ryan turned to me. "You stole my company." I looked at him for a long moment, then I quietly smiled. "No. I simply remembered something that you forgot. 3 years earlier, when Ryan convinced me to let him become CEO, our attorney insisted on adding one clause. Ryan hated it. He argued for almost an hour. "It's unnecessary. It's just paperwork." The attorney disagreed. "It's protection. For both of you." Eventually, Ryan signed it, without reading every page. He was too busy celebrating becoming CEO. I remembered every word. He remembered none of them. Back in the restaurant, his father frowned. What clause? Michael removed another document, the Carter Medical Solutions shareholder agreement. He opened it to page 47, then turned it toward Ryan. Paragraph 8.4. Ryan stared at the page, his face slowly drained of color. Michael read it aloud. If a managing partner is proven to have committed fraud against another shareholder, their voting authority is immediately suspended pending judicial review. The room became silent. Ryan whispered, "No." Michael continued, "Operational control temporarily returns to the remaining founding shareholder." He looked directly at Ryan. "In this case, Emma Carter." Olivia blinked. "Wait. Emma owns the company?" I nodded. "I founded it." Ryan joined 2 years later. Several relatives looked shocked. His mother frowned. "He always told us it was his business." I smiled sadly. "I know. He told investors that too." Ryan buried his face in his hands. His father slowly stood. "You built the company? Before you married him?" "Yes. I wrote the first software prototype in my apartment. I worked weekends. I borrowed money from my student savings. When Ryan joined, I believed we were building a future together. Instead, I built the future he planned to take from me." Ryan suddenly slammed his fist on the table. "I made that company successful." I nodded. "You absolutely helped it grow. But growth doesn't erase fraud." Michael slid another paper across the table. "This morning, the board held an emergency vote." Ryan looked confused. "What board?" I answered. "The one you forgot to tell your family about." He frowned. "I appointed those directors." I smiled. "You did. But after they heard the recording and reviewed the forensic report, they voted unanimously." Michael finished the sentence. "You've been removed as chief executive officer." Nobody spoke. Ryan looked like he'd stopped hearing. His father whispered, You're not CEO anymore?" Michael nodded. "As of 3:12 this afternoon." Ryan looked at me. "When?" "You knew?" I answered quietly. "Before I arrived." He suddenly laughed. Not because anything was funny, because reality was finally catching him. "You planned tonight." I shook my head. "No. I planned my future. You planned my destruction." We simply arrived at the same date. Olivia slowly walked toward me. She looked exhausted, ashamed. "I need to ask you something." I nodded. "Go ahead." She swallowed. "Was any of it real? The family vacations? The birthdays? The gifts I gave you?" I smiled gently. "Every hug I gave you, every Christmas dinner I cooked, every birthday present, every time I watched your son, it was real. I love this family. I just didn't realize I was the only one trying." Olivia began crying again. This time, no one comforted her. Everyone was too busy thinking about their own part in what had happened. Ryan's mother slowly walked over to me. She held my hands. For the first time in 10 years. "I'm so sorry. I judged you. I defended him. I never once asked how you were feeling." Tears filled her eyes. "You deserve better." I squeezed her hand. "I know." Just then, Ryan's phone rang again. This time, he answered. "Hello?" His expression changed almost instantly. "What? All of them?" His knees nearly gave out. Michael quietly looked at me. I already knew. Ryan ended the call with shaking hands. His father asked, What happened now?" Ryan couldn't answer, so Michael did. "The company's 3 biggest clients have just terminated their contracts." Ryan looked at me in disbelief. "You told them?" I shook my head. "No. They heard about the board vote. They made their own decision. Ryan slowly sat down. For the first time all night, he looked completely defeated. Then he whispered something so quietly. Only I could hear it. I've lost everything. I looked into his eyes, then answered with the only truth that mattered. No, Ryan. You lost everything. The first time you chose a lie over the woman who would have stood beside you through anything. I picked up my handbag, looked around the room one last time, then walked toward the exit. Just before I reached the door, Ryan's father spoke. Emma. I turned around. He lowered his head. In 10 years. I've never been more ashamed of my son. I gave him a small, respectful nod. Then I walked out. Behind me, no one called my name, because some endings. Don't need another conversation. Exactly 1 year later, I stood in the same restaurant, same windows, same piano, same view of Lake Michigan. But everything else had changed. This time, I wasn't waiting for someone to choose me. I had already chosen myself. The hostess smiled. Welcome back, Dr. Carter. She remembered me, not because of my name, because she remembered the anniversary dinner. The one where the entire dining room went silent. She didn't mention it. She didn't have to. Some nights become stories. That one became a legend among the staff. I sat by the window, ordered the same pasta. This time, I served myself first. Nobody stared. Nobody judged me. I smiled to myself. Funny how something so small had once made me question my worth. A year changes people, sometimes in ways you never expect. 3 months after our divorce was finalized, I was officially appointed Chief Executive Officer of Carter Medical Solutions, not because I wanted power, because the board wanted stability. The first thing I did was remove every policy Ryan had created to silence employees. Anonymous reporting, financial transparency, independent audits. No executive, including me, would ever have unchecked authority again. Trust shouldn't depend on personality. It should depend on accountability. The company grew faster than anyone expected. Hospitals that had left returned. New investors came in. The software we'd built began helping emergency rooms across the country reduce treatment delays. Every time I walked through headquarters, I remembered the tiny apartment where I had written the first lines of code. Ryan had almost taken the company from me. Instead, he reminded me why I built it in the first place. People often ask if I hate him. The answer surprises them. No. Hate keeps someone alive inside your heart. I don't hate Ryan. I forgave him, not because he deserved it, because I deserved peace. Forgiveness isn't giving someone another chance. Sometimes, it's giving yourself permission to stop carrying the weight they left behind. About 6 months after the anniversary dinner, I received a handwritten letter, no return address. I recognized the handwriting immediately, Ryan. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. It wasn't a request to come back. It wasn't an excuse. It simply said, "You were right." I thought winning meant controlling everything. I didn't realize I was losing the only person who ever truly believed in me. I'm sorry. There were no promises, no manipulation, just regret. For the first time, I believed he meant it. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and never read it again. Some apologies deserve acceptance. They don't always deserve a second chance. A few weeks later, Olivia asked if we could meet. I almost declined. Then curiosity won. She looked different, quieter, less defensive. She didn't waste time. "The slap," she whispered. "I replay it in my head almost every day." I became the kind of person I always said I hated. I looked at her. "You believed the wrong person." She nodded. "I know." Then she slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a scholarship agreement. She had donated enough money to fund nursing scholarships in my late mother's name. "I can't undo what I did," she said softly, "but maybe I can do something that matters." For the first time, I smiled at her without pain. People can change, only after they accept the truth. Ryan's parents visited me once, not to talk about Ryan, not to ask for forgiveness, just to say thank you. His father looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Character isn't revealed when life is easy. It's revealed when someone has every reason to seek revenge and still chooses dignity. That sentence stayed with me. The waitress arrived with dessert. A complimentary slice of cheesecake. She smiled. Happy anniversary. I laughed. It's actually... I paused, then smiled again. Yes, it is. Not a wedding anniversary. An anniversary of freedom, of truth, of finally understanding my own worth. As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed, a message from one of the young surgeons I mentor. "Dr. Carter, I don't think I'm strong enough to keep going," I replied immediately. Strength isn't never falling. Strength is refusing to stay where you're no longer respected. I hit send, then looked out over the city lights. A year ago, I walked into this restaurant believing I was about to celebrate a marriage. Instead, I buried it. And somehow, that became the day my real life began. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Never let someone convince you that keeping the peace is more important than keeping your self-respect. Because the moment you stop fighting to earn love, you make room for the people who choose to give it freely. And sometimes, the greatest victory isn't making the people who hurt you lose. It's building a life so full of peace that they no longer have the power to define your story. I picked up my coat, stepped out into the cool Chicago night. This time, no one was walking beside me, and for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel alone.